Imagine settling into the theater, with your kids for a Sunday matinee.
Oh, yeah, you've got the popcorn.
Exactly. You've got the popcorn. You've seen the posters. It's a movie about fluffy talking farm animals.
Okay.
So you know exactly the kind of contract you've signed when you buy that ticket.
Right, you're expecting slapstick.
Yeah, some physical comedy, maybe a few subtle pop culture references thrown in over the kids' heads just to
To keep the parents awake.
just to keep you awake. Exactly. And a very neat, very happy ending. Like the cartoon shepherd reads the sheep a bedtime story. Everyone is smiling. And then, 10 minutes in, that lovable shepherd is fatally poisoned with toxic botany.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Plunging you headfirst into a cold-blooded murder investigation.
It's a huge shift.
It really is. So, welcome to today's deep dive. We are unpacking a single, really fascinating source today. It's a comprehensive review of the new family movie, The Sheep Detectives. And our mission here is to explore how a seemingly cute, anthropomorphic animal movie transforms into this meticulously crafted, surprisingly dark whodunit.
One that really refuses to talk down to its audience.
Absolutely. Okay, let's unpack this. Because our source material actually opens with a fantastic bit of wordplay that it really sets the tone perfectly.
Oh, the pun.
Yeah, the pun. They advise audiences who are looking for a simple distraction to give this movie a beat.
Give it a beat.
I had to throw it in there.
Yeah.
And to understand why you need to give it a beat, we first have to look at the architecture of the film's opening act because it's a very intentional, a highly engineered trap.
Trap is honestly the exact right word for the narrative structure here.
Yeah.
The filmmakers established this very specific emotional baseline right out of the gate.
Mm-hmm.
And they do it by turning those wholesome dials up to a level that almost feels, uncomfortable.
It is. It is a completely treacly trap. We open on Hugh Jackman, and he plays George, the shepherd of this extremely picturesque flock. And George's love for his sheep borders on, obsessive.
A little creepy, yeah.
A little creepy. He isn't just a farmer. He has named every single member of this flock.
He knows them all.
All of them. He's mapped out their distinct personalities. And the kicker is, he sits out in the pasture and reads classic murder mysteries to them.
Every single night.
Every single night.
Which is such a bizarrely specific character quirk. The source material actually notes that George's narrated intro is so aggressively syrupy sweet that it makes a movie like Babe look like The Silence of the Lambs.
That comparison is so wild to me.
It is, but having looked at the breakdown of the scene, it makes a little sense. If you're watching this and you are actively being lulled.
Yeah, lulled into a false sense of security.
Right. The review describes feeling simultaneously annoyed and creeped out by how aggressively wholesome it is.
Mm-hmm.
But then, snap.
The trap closes.
The trap closes. George is murdered.
And we should clarify for everyone, he isn't playfully bumped off screen or sent away on vacation.
No. He is fatally poisoned.
Poisoned by the inedible parts of a yew tree.
Yes.
This is what I find so compelling. It's such a specific, grounded method of murder. It isn't magic. It isn't, a cartoon anvil falling from the sky.
Right, it's forensic botany.
Exactly. You have a real-world toxic plant that is famously found in old British graveyards and estates. Suddenly, the entire movie morphs from a morning cartoon into an actual procedural.
What's fascinating here is how the director, Kyle Balda, essentially manipulates the psychology of the audience. You have Hugh Jackman going full-on Mr. Jackman's Neighborhood.
Right.
The audience relaxes, the kids are comfortable, the parents might be, checking their watches, expecting a very safe, sterile 90 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
By establishing that baseline of supreme safety, the shock of the genre shift is magnified tenfold.
It's like biting into what you think is a sweet marshmallow.
Right.
Only to discover it's completely stuffed with a spicy jalapeno.
That's a great analogy.
The cute constraints of the farmyard actually make the dark mechanics of the murder stand out in sharper relief. Your brain short-circuits for a second because you just weren't braced for the stakes to be real.
Exactly. And the mystery desperately needs that disruption of peace. If the movie started dark and rainy,
You wouldn't care.
you wouldn't feel the profound loss of George's idyllic farm life. The narrative needs you to feel the comfort of that pasture so that when it's violated by a real crime, the story actually has emotional stakes.
And since the Good Shepherd has met his demise, the mechanics of a murder mystery obviously demand a suspect pool.
Naturally.
Which brings us to a phase the review cleverly dubs butter knives out.
I love that phrase.
It's brilliant because it perfectly captures the eccentric kind of theatrical nature of the human characters who are suddenly thrust into the spotlight. Let's break down the suspect pool because it's just rich with classic motives.
Mhm.
First, we have the most obvious possible killer, Rebecca, played by Molly Gordon.
Right, the daughter.
Yeah, she is George's previously unknown daughter who has conveniently just arrived in town. And her motive, I mean, it is massive. It turns out George wasn't just a simple guy who loved sheep.
He was sitting on a gold mine.
Right. He had actually invented a proprietary farming medicine that quietly made him a millionaire. So Rebecca is poised to inherit all of this newfound wealth.
So you have a classic golden age inheritance motive there. I mean, the long-lost relative appearing just in time for the reading of the will. It's
Right.
Agatha Christie 101.
Oh, completely. But the script doesn't stop there. We also have Caleb, played by Tosin Cole.
The rival.
Yeah, he's a competing shepherd in the area. So now we have professional rivalry and financial threat. And rounding out the trio is Reverend Hillcoat, played by Kobna Holbrook-Smith.
Who had a famously frosty relationship with George.
Yes, very antagonistic.
So you've got greed, professional jealousy, and personal animosity. Basically the holy trinity of murder motives.
Right. And to sort through the sudden mess of human corruption, the movie gives us a set of human investigators, too. We have Emma Thompson playing a completely cold-blooded lawyer.
Brilliant casting.
Oh, it establishes the real-world legal stakes immediately. Then we have a junior newspaper reporter named Elliot, played by Nicholas Galitzine.
Trying to make a name for himself.
Exactly. And leading the official charge is the bumbling local policeman. He's played by Nicholas Braun, channeling that exact same, wide-eyed naivety he brought to Cousin Greg on Succession.
Which is such a specific, awkward energy to bring to a homicide investigation. But notice how these humans, both the suspects and the investigators, how they operate.
Yeah.
They fit perfectly into classic whodunit archetypes. The filmmakers are providing a very familiar, comfortable framework for the audience to process what is actually a very bizarre setting. Like, we inherently know how the bumbling cop behaves. We know how the cold lawyer operates.
I see the structural logic there. I really do.
Yeah.
But I have to push back a little on the execution here.
Okay, go for it.
If the humans are just playing out a completely standard paint-by-numbers Agatha Christie mystery, why should you or I actually care? Like, if I want to watch a classic whodunit with human archetypes, I can just stream Knives Out.
Sure.
What actually makes this movie unique if the human element is just doing what we've seen 100 times before?
That is exactly the point the source material makes, though. The humans are entirely a red herring.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Not just in terms of the plot, but in terms of the movie's actual focus.
Yeah.
The familiar human archetypes are just there to establish the rules of the genre.
Okay.
But they are handicapped by their own human arrogance. They don't look closely at the farm. They completely overlook the detail.
So they miss everything.
Exactly. The real stars of the film, and the actual detectives, are the livestock.
Because the animals see everything.
Right.
While the humans are fumbling around in the farmhouse, the sheep are out in the pasture organizing an investigation. And apparently they're doing it in a confusing variety of regional accents.
Which just compounds the surreal nature of the investigation. You have this highly logical forensic pursuit being conducted by farm animals with distinct dialects.
It's so weird. So let's look at the actual investigative team. Our lead detective, our Sherlock Holmes, as the review affectionately calls her.
Great pun.
So good. It's Lily, voiced by Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
Yes.
Lily was George's favorite sheep. Remember how he read mysteries to them every night?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Lily was always the one in the flock who correctly guessed who the perpetrator was in those novels. So now, with her mentor gone, she takes the lead in real life, hunting for clues.
The casting of Julia Louis-Dreyfus here is really a masterstroke. The analysis draws this really insightful parallel to Amy Poehler's work in the Inside Out movies.
Because she has to carry the entire emotional center of the film using only her voice.
Precisely.
She brings that innate warmth, but pairs it with a distinct, no BS attitude.
Yeah, and this is crucial when you're animating an animal. I mean, you lose a vast amount of the micro-expressions that a live-action human actor relies on.
Right, like the slight tightening of the jaw or darting of the eyes.
Exactly. Things you need to convey determination or intellectual processing. The vocal performance has to shoulder that entire burden.
Wow. Yeah.
And Louis-Dreyfus has a vocal quality that naturally commands authority, but remains inherently likable. You absolutely believe she has the intellect to organize a flock of eccentric animals into a forensic unit.
And they are incredibly eccentric. Her sidekicks provide a lot of the texture here. Brett Goldstein voices Reggie and Ronnie.
The Rams.
Yeah, these hyper-masculine, bro-y horned beasts who just, they cannot stop ramming into each other during the investigation.
Typical.
And then we have Sir Richfield, voiced by Patrick Stewart.
Oh, he's great.
He is this pompous old bird of a sheep. Like, he's actively insisting the group shun a cute baby lamb simply because it was born in winter.
Which is just a hilarious microcosm of social dynamics and prejudices, but played completely straight within the absurd world of the farmyard.
It is. But bringing up the farmyard actually brings up attention the review highlights. There is a very specific nitpick, I guess, about the physical execution of the animals.
Like animation.
Right. They are CGI, not tactile, practical puppets. And while they look photorealistic, there is an odd lack of naturalism to their movement in the environment.
Yeah, right.
The phrase the review uses is that their gait doesn't match their weight.
Meaning the render looks heavy, like a dense woolly animal, but they traverse the environment with the slight weightlessness of a digital creation.
Exactly. And I think we need to pause and look at why that matters. In a traditional murder mystery, physical grounding is everything, right?
It's all about physics, yeah.
The genre relies on the tangible physics of reality, like the exact force needed to drop an item. The physical timeline of how fast a suspect could run from point A to point B. The depth of a footprint in the mud. So, if your lead detectives are floating around like CGI balloons, doesn't that fundamentally break the forensic spell? If we don't believe in the gravity of the world, how can we believe in the gravity of the clues?
It's a highly valid critique. I mean, a murder mystery is essentially a physics puzzle wrapped in human drama.
Right.
If the world feels weightless, the stakes can inherently feel weightless too. However, I think the filmmakers made a calculated trade-off here. What the film might lack in perfect physical gravitational weight, it more than makes up for in its staggering emotional weight.
Which is an excellent point, because maybe that physical weightlessness serves a necessary purpose.
Oh, so?
Well, if the sheep felt too hyper-realistic, the incredibly dark emotional turn the movie takes next might actually be too traumatic for a family audience. We move from these slightly bouncy CGI sidekicks into what the source material labels the baby Broadchurch tonal shift.
Broadchurch being the famously bleak, emotionally devastating British crime drama.
Yeah.
To use that specific show as a comparison point for a family film about talking sheep is, it's striking.
It really paints a picture. And the focal point of this shift is the character of Sebastian, voiced by Bryan Cranston.
Right.
Sebastian is not a goofy, headbutting sidekick. He is described as a brooding, dramatic grazer with a gravelly brogue. He brings this deeply anguished backstory to the narrative, and then he suffers a fate that the review explicitly warns will be a very tough watch for the littlest viewers.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is where the earlier comparison to the movie Babe becomes incredibly profound.
Oh, yeah.
It's easy to forget that Babe wasn't just a cute passing distraction. I mean, it was a Best Picture Oscar nominee.
A huge deal.
And a massive part of why it achieved that critical status was its absolute refusal to spare children from the harsh, unsentimental realities of farm life. Animals are sold, mortalities happen. The film respected its young audience enough to tell them the truth about the world.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, because when you look at the history of storytelling, this tonal shift isn't actually a modern invention at all. No, it is a return to a much older form. It's exactly how the original unsanitized Grimm's fairy tales operated.
Oh, that's a fascinating historical parallel.
Right. Think about the original versions of Cinderella or Hansel and Gretel. Those stories were explicitly designed to be told to children, but they were legitimately terrifying.
They really were.
They didn't shy away from themes of abandonment, tragedy, or severe consequences. They used fantastical elements, witches, talking wolves, enchanted forests, to help children safely process very real, very scary concepts about the dangers of the world.
The pervasive sugarcoating of children's media is a relatively recent, culturally specific phenomenon, honestly.
Yeah.
By introducing a character like Sebastian, giving him real emotional anguish, and subjecting him to a tough fate, The Sheep Detectives is operating in that older, much richer tradition of storytelling.
Looking kids in the eye.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
looking children in the eye and saying, yes, the world can be dark and bad things happen, even to characters we care about.
But balancing that darkness in a movie where Brett Goldstein is voicing a head-butting ram, I mean, that is a massive risk. You're walking a razor-thin wire between physical comedy and genuine tragedy.
It's a tough balancing act.
And if you're going to take those kinds of dark thematic risks in a whodunit, you absolutely must be able to stick the landing.
Without doubt.
If the mystery falls apart or feels cheap at the end, the entire structural integrity of the movie collapses.
The conclusion is the crucible for any mystery. You can have the best atmosphere in the world, but if the puzzle doesn't solve fairly, the audience will turn on you.
So we have to ask, does it hold up? Let's look at the payoff. The movie features a classic parlor scene, though fittingly, it takes place out in the town square.
Right, outside.
This is the Agatha Christie moment where Lily, our Sherlock Holmes, gathers everyone to reveal the identity of the killer. And this is where the reviewer offers their absolute highest praise.
They emphasize that the identity of the killer actually comes as a well-thought-out, genuinely satisfying surprise.
And more importantly, the evidence adds up logically. The script does not lazily coast on its status as a nice family movie. It doesn't hand-wave the climax with magic, and it doesn't use the CGI sheep as an excuse for glaring plot holes.
This raises an important question about how creators view their audience. Coasting on the "it's just a kids' movie" excuse is a trap that degrades so much of modern family entertainment.
Oh, absolutely.
Creators often assume children won't notice logic gaps, or the parents are just too distracted looking at their phones to care.
Right.
By delivering a meticulously crafted conclusion where the actual forensic botany of the U-tree matters, the filmmakers are showing immense respect for the intelligence of everyone in the theater.
I want to turn that directly to you, listening to this deep dive right now. Put yourself in that theater seat.
Yeah.
Given what we've discussed, would you have been able to piece together the clues?
It's a real test.
Would you have correctly connected the inedible, toxic parts of the U-tree to the town suspects? The daughter poised to inherit millions, the rival shepherd, the frosty reverend.
Before a CGI sheep did.
Right, before a CGI sheet beat you to it. It's a legitimate intellectual challenge.
And that challenge is the core joy of a well-crafted mystery.
Yeah.
You are an active participant, investigating alongside the detectives, whether those detectives are wearing trench coats in a smoky office or covered in wool out in a pasture. The fact that the script demands that level of active cognitive engagement from a family audience is exactly what elevates it from a mere distraction into a genuinely good piece of cinema.
It really is, as the source material concludes, a remarkably meaty movie, like a roast leg of, well, you know. I had to include that closing line from the review. It perfectly encapsulates the bizarre, slightly macabre, but highly satisfying nature of the whole experience.
It certainly leaves the audience with something substantial to chew on, metaphorically speaking.
So what does this all mean? Why should you care about a movie where Julia Louis-Dreyfus voices a farm animal investigating a botanical poisoning? It matters because the next time you are scrolling for a movie, whether for yourself on a Sunday afternoon or to watch with family, that bridges the gap between childlike wonder and adult-level intrigue, you should seek out art that refuses to dumb things down.
Absolutely.
Look for creators who respect you enough to lay out clues fairly and enforce real-world consequences, even if those clues are being delivered by a flock with confusing accents.
It ultimately proves that the aesthetic vehicle of the story, whether it's gritty human detectives in rainy alleys or animated livestock, is entirely secondary to the structural integrity of the storytelling itself.
Exactly. But I want to leave you with one final, brand new concept to ponder today, something that builds on this entire discussion.
Okay.
We've spent this deep dive exploring how the Sheep Detectives uses farm animals to explore real-world consequences and heavy themes for kids. But consider this from your own perspective as an adult. Does masking these heavy concepts like mortality, inheritance, and the flaws in human justice behind the absolute fluff of anthropomorphic CGI animals actually bypass your adult cynicism?
Oh, that is a fascinating psychological angle.
Right, because think about it. If this were a live-action, gritty, prestige HBO drama about a millionaire shepherd poisoned by his greedy family, we might immediately roll our eyes.
We say we've seen it a million times.
Exactly. We'd cross our arms, we'd be defensive. But does a talking sheep, genuinely grappling with the loss of its caretaker, somehow slip past our emotional defenses?
That's such a good point.
Does the sheer disarming absurdity of the setup make us, as adults, paradoxically more receptive to profound philosophical lessons about life, death, and justice than if the exact same script were acted out entirely by human beings?
It's a compelling thought, When you remove the familiar human baggage and the slickness of a prestige drama, sometimes the core human truths actually shine brighter in the contrast.
I think so too. It turns out sometimes the most effective way to deliver a complex, difficult truth is to hide it inside a brightly colored, animated Trojan horse. Keep questioning how the media you consume is manipulating your expectations and always keep exploring. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.